Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Property Masterclass, Flipping Property for Profit. May I take this opportunity to thank you for joining us. Demand for the event has been very high, so we are just waiting to give everybody the opportunity to log on. If you are listening in audio only or telephone mode, a full transcript or recording will be available after this session. In the meantime, may I please introduce tonight's presenter, award-winning property entrepreneur, estate agent and developer, Ben Hollingsworth.
Ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you for joining us. A very warm welcome. Thank you to everyone who's logged on here now. My name is Ben Hollingsworth. As I was introduced then, I am an estate agent, an investment consultant, property developer, and mentor and coach of latter years here. My property development company had a successful year last year thanks to the fact that we were able to systemize a lot of our business. So therefore, obviously, we have a great business model in place now. So I just still admitting people. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. As far as today goes, it's going to be a brief overview of our property development and flipping properties for profit. So without further ado, I'm going to go straight in and just tell you a little bit more about this. Flipping property is where we purchase a property. It could be commercial, could be residential, could be a plot of land, could be anything. And we then refurbish or redevelop and we sell it on. We flip it quickly. A lot of people say flipping is just buying and selling, but the Americanization of it means that obviously it can include on what we tend to know as in the UK, a refurbishment. So where you add value to that particular property. There's a couple on there. You can see good memories come rolling back when I see this there. The end product is sometimes really, really satisfying, but what does it for me is the satisfaction in the job, plus obviously the really flexible and generous income that it gives us. So a lot of people say to me, Ben, where do we begin? How do we start? Do we look for a property? Do we, what's the route into a flip project? And it's as simple as this. We begin with the end in mind. Now, I've put this book up here because if you haven't read it, read it. It's a fantastic book. It's called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen R. Covey. Now, what he mentions in chapter 2 is begin with the end in mind. And that surmises flip projects. So many people get carried away with the romance of it. They see a property, they emotionally attached to it, they want to do the refurbishment, they want to make money, they've watched Homes Under the Hammer, it's fantastic. But in reality, there's only one variable, and that's the buying price. The end product is going to be based upon comparable figures. And if people will pay over the odds because you've done the property really nicely, that's great. However, it could get knocked down in survey. So we've always got to be realistic and start from the end and work backwards. So what would this project achieve in really good condition? If it was the nicest house on that street, what would our local estate agents achieve for it? We then work backwards. What's our margin? What's the cost of the refurbishment? And what are all the incremental costs? Add all that together, and I've got a great spreadsheet that I'll gladly share with people who come onto the program with me. Add all that together, and that will give you the figure, the buying figure. It's all about the buying, because your end value is always going to be there or thereabouts. Even if you sell the most expensive house on the street, it's not going to be acres above anything else that's sold in that street. And the cost of obviously doing the actual refurbishment is going to remain the same. So many people say to me, well, we'll shave 3,000 or 5,000. Hang on a second, where's that going? Your builder's not going to work for nothing. There's going to be something missing if you start cutting corners, and you're only hindering and impeding the exit by doing so. So always start with the end in mind. So we go back then to the actual purchase. So where do we go with this now? In the end, we've got to look at your project. We've got to look at comparable values. Now, what comparable values are? They are the figures that property has definitively sold for in that area, comparable property. So if you're looking, for example, at a 3-bedroom terraced house in a certain street, let's have a look what's sold there in the last 6 months. Let's also analyze the market see how the market's rising or has risen, see where the market's going, and use those comparable figures accordingly. The best source of information comes from land registry sold prices. Don't look at what's on the market. Could be on the market for 2 years at a hugely inflated price. Look at what has actually sold, what people have actually sold property for in that street or that particular area, and comparable property to yours. Also, speak to local agents. That's really, really important because they've got their feet on the ground. Speak to 3 estate agents in that particular area and gauge their opinion. We've got to get over the please don't overinflate the price to impress me so I use you, and then have the price pulled down over the first 6 months that it doesn't sell for. Let's have a look at what the current market offering is, and let's have a look at what the agents are saying. Use that with our comparable data, and that will get us the all-important gross development value. You hear people talk about GDV, gross development value. What we are going to achieve realistically for that property. Now, if we're lucky and we go over, that's all profit, that's all bonus, that's all extra money. But let's put the figures in realistically. What those 3 things do for us there is they give us the maximum price that we will achieve for that property when we come to sell it after the refurbishment program has then finished. So what we do then is we look at project analysis. So we've got our GDV, our end value. Now let's start, as the book says, let's start working backwards. What's our margin going to be? Where have we set ourselves? Where have we set our stall out for the margin? And what's every single individual item going to cost us? All the building costs, the refurbishment costs. Don't forget sundry items. Don't forget the tax, the stamp duty. Don't forget the legal fees, the purchase fees. Don't forget a contingency. Because if you find something in that property that's wrong and you can't afford to write it, you won't be able to sell that particular property. So always have at least a decent contingency in place, which we can discuss for that particular project, to make sure that you don't become unstuck, as quite a few people have done during the refurbishment program. Making the offer is making your profit. As I said earlier, the only variable is the price that we purchased this property for. Because we know, again, to talk about it, the GDV, the end value. We know what the building costs are. We've done our spreadsheet, as I was just talking about then. So we've seen what all the incremental costs are. So making the offer is making our profit. Someone once said to me, I can't take the credit for this myself, and it's quite funny really. It depends what kind of market we're actually in. But someone said to me, if you don't feel embarrassed making the offer, it's probably not low enough. Now, in a market that's very strong, we don't want to alienate our auction houses, our estate agents, our vendors. That's the worst thing that we can possibly do. However, we do need to be realistic about what we're actually offering. And as part of my process, I will explain to you how we gauge the market, how we get a feel for that particular property, the circumstances of the vendors, and also the position of the estate agent with that particular sale. All those things mixed in go together to formulate how we will not only come to our offer, but how we will present our offer effectively and get it accepted with the estate agent. Let's talk now about the property. Once we've acquired it, we've got to talk about specification. Now, I've got quite a few friends from the southeast. I operate here in Newport in South Wales, and whilst we saw huge, over 10% growth last year in Newport, which is fantastic. A lot of things have happened. We've got 5 motorway junctions, the 7 bridge tolls have gone. So a lot of people are coming from across the bridge and into South Wales to live, hence fueling property prices. However, we are still on a budget. And when we are completing a project, we've got to make sure we cover every base, but we also manage our budget very, very effectively. I'll tell you a little story now, and something that made me laugh is that one of the first projects that I ever did, I really wanted the wow factor. And it was a stunning little house, East Usk Road in Newport. And I went and spent quite a lot of money on very contemporary, good taste, ornate ceiling lights downstairs. Just had the standard £2 roses upstairs, but downstairs, to create that wow factor, we had the spots in the kitchen that we always have, and we still have today, the bathroom, but I had some lovely ornate ceiling lights. The lady, after completion, rang me because she couldn't get the boiler to work. And although not our responsibility, I feel a kind of obligation to help people out, people that have helped me by buying my house. I'll always return, revisit, and help them. So I went back to sort the boiler out. It was only a minor pressure issue with it. It's a combination boiler, of course. And I noticed that as I was leaving, I looked up and the lights had gone. I said, where have the lights gone? So I hated them. I took them down straight away. I'd given them to my brother. I couldn't believe it, but great lesson learned. A lot of my friends, as I was just saying, from the southeast say to me, why don't we do this? Why don't we put integrated dishwasher, integrated wine fridge? Why don't we put air conditioning? Why don't we put underfloor heating? Why don't we go to the loft to do a loft conversion? Stop, stop, stop. In London, that may pay, and we get return on it. Here, certain things that work in other areas won't pay. So we've got to know our area, and we've got to know our market to be sure that what we're doing will add value and won't be a cost of nil value. So every single thing that goes into this property has got to be budgeted for correctly, so our price point is right and our margin remains healthy. If you have a look at this kitchen here, we use a certain brand of kitchen, the same for most of our properties. Lovely gloss white contemporary kitchen with brushed chrome handles on there. You'll see it's got sink, mixer taps, all the drainage, everything included. It's got obviously oven, hob, extractor unit in there. And those kitchens cost £1,750. We do occasionally put an integrated fridge freezer if we've got space or kind of design issues in there, adds a few £100 more. But generally we spend less than £2,000 to create a fantastic kitchen that looks like that. We look at the exterior of the property, the gardens. Are we going to landscape the whole gardens? Are we going to see a return for it? Do we turf them? Do we rotivate them? What do we do? We've got to evaluate every single project on its own merits and what the GDV for that particular project will actually be. What we do in the interior, as I say, we concentrate mainly on first-time buyer houses. We have done slightly larger projects with bigger specification and bigger spend on them, but generally we'll look at a standard business model. And when I said earlier about systemization, that's what we have in place. We have the same kitchen, the same appliances, and we have the same color scheme into every single property. Now, the likes of the big building companies, new home builders, spend millions on research and development. They have expert interior designers. Go and look at what they're doing. What colors are they using? Are they using gray? Are they using linen? Are they using gray flooring? Yes, they are. Copy, emulate. You know, nobody has the copyright on interior design or color schemes. So go and have a look in your spare time. It's entirely free. Have a walk around the show home, see what they're doing. That will give you scope for what you need to do in your particular property. But never, ever to the same standard they would do it, because A, we're not rebuilding houses, we are refurbishing houses, and B, the show home on these developments always has every conceivable extra, a bit like a demonstration vehicle in a car dealership. It's got every single extra on it. But when you come to buy yours, you will have to pay extra for each of those things, down to tiles on the walls. You know, are you having an integrated washing machine? It's all there in the show home, but it all costs extra on the base price. Have a look at the electrics in the property. When we go through our program, I'll teach you how to identify how old the electrics are. Are the wires earthed? Does it need rewiring? Does it need a new consumer unit? What level will we do and how much will it cost? Likewise with heating. How old is the boiler? Is it serviceable? Is it a combination boiler? Do we have an old back boiler with a water cylinder upstairs? Everything like that needs to be evaluated, which is part of our program here in teaching you how to get the best out of your refurbishments. Kitchens, as I said earlier, standardized. The bathroom, again, standardized. Bath, shower over, rain shower, separate attachment, pedestal wash hand basin with cupboard underneath it, and low-level WC. All really, really standard stuff, and standard stuff that we can cost for because we've done it so many times, so we know how much it costs. Our bathrooms typically cost, including tiles, get this, less than £1,000. Somebody walks into one of our properties and they look at the kitchen, they look at the bathroom, they look at the floorings, they think this would cost a fortune. It doesn't. If you do it right, it looks great, it'll stand the test of time, and it sells the property for you. Flooring is important. Again, we tend to go for, learn the hard lesson here, looked at underfloor heating, looked at ceramic tiles, looked at all different options. We tend to go for a nice, deep quality lino for the kitchen and bathrooms that does look unlike lino, when I say that, and also grey carpet with a very thick underlay. So you get the feeling of luxury when you tread on the carpet walking through the home. It creates that warm feeling, the curb appeal, as people call it, when you go through the front door and make a decision very quickly on who's buying that house. The refurbishment program. Now, this is key to what we do here, and picking your trades is absolutely essential. You must have a tradesperson who will cover plastering, plumbing, and carpentry work. You then have a secondary trade, will be your electrician, who must be NEICI registered. So he'll be a specialist, or she will be a specialist electrician. And likewise, your gas engineer must be gas safe registered, so that you can produce building regulation certs when you exit the property. As you're doing the refurbishment, you'll soon find that everything we do in the refurbishment is with the exit in mind. For example, if we look at a property which has got an extension, it's got a felt flat roof that's cracked, do we leave that? It's fine, it's not leaking. No, we don't. Because when the survey's done, they'll draw attention. It'll either scare the buyers off or it'll scare the lender off. That means it's going to put us several weeks behind. We've got to start the whole process over again. And of course, if we don't rectify that problem, we're going to have exactly the same outcome. So get it right from the start. Think constantly during the refurbishment program about the exit. Has the house got curb appeal? Is someone going to want to buy it? What specification will they want? Has the work been done to a good standard? And also, are we compliant as far as a survey and the conveyancing goes? The conveyancing will look at your certificates, your guarantees, dry rot, woodworm, rising down, everything like that. If that's been covered off in the survey, they'll look for guarantees and indemnities on everything like that. So our refurbishment program is all about the exit. Really, really important. And when we've done the refurbishment, the most important bit comes, and that's the selling of the property. Now, how do we choose our agent? It's quite simple. If the agent's given you that property, give it back to them to sell. Because if you do, you'll probably get another one from them. Everybody says to me, Ben, we'd love to get involved in flipping properties, but we just cannot find the deals. I will teach you how to find the deals, how to romance the estate agents, the auctions, other routes to market, such as direct to vendor. We can go through all of that in due course and due time. So if you want to spend some time with me, I will gladly show you how we can do all of that as part of our coaching and mentoring program. The sale is absolutely essential, and our input, even with the best estate agent, the best conveyancer in the world, our input to the sale is absolutely vital. We used to look at a 4 to 6 week turnaround period between sale agreed and the day of completion. We're now a national average of 12 weeks. However, I looked at the 13 projects that I completed last year, and we were down to below 10 weeks. So we're way ahead of the average, thanks to the input that I've gone in there with to help the conveyancing process move quickly. Again, a lot of it comes from the work that I've done over the past couple of months when we've been doing the refurbishment program to ensure the exit is very, very smooth and without any kind of impediment whatsoever. The resale is absolutely vital, because unless you sell the property, you don't get your return. Now, how do we maximize revenue? It really is that simple. We've got to look at our budget, we've got to look at our areas, we've got to look at our property, and really importantly, our key demographic of purchaser. Are we looking at a 3-bedroom terraced house below a price point here in South Wales of £150,000 that will appeal to first-time buyers? Are we looking at starter homes? Are we looking at flats? Are we looking at commercial conversions? Are we looking at executive properties that, whilst they may take longer and the budget will be far higher, the profit margin reflects that? So let's just say, and I know a lot of us aren't in the fortunate position, but let's just say we had £100,000 in cash. Based upon what I achieved last year, when I did 13 projects, my average return on investment was 29.2%. Now, I can't accredit all of this to myself and my team. I've got to say some of that came from the spike we had in the property values and the demand for the properties over that 12-month period. Demand is still very, very strong. So what I've done is I've said, right, let's look at 2 projects per year. Now, what I mean by that is if you had £100,000, you could spend that twice in 1 year. So if you look at the purchase, the refurbishment, the resale, and the completion, we aim to do that for each project within 6 months. Now, some people say you can go 3 times in a year. Well, perhaps you can, but I think that's being a bit over-optimistic. That's not having any kind of contingency for time. And obviously, we can't buy time. Time is the only thing in life we can't buy. So I'm going to say, conservatively, as I always do, let's look at 2 projects per year. Now, if we use the same money twice in 1 year, and let's just say we get 20% return on investment of your £100,000 pot, your year 1 total is going to work out at a nice round £42,000 profit. And if we go a stage further, we roll the money over, we're really disciplined, don't spend any of it on Mulberry handbags or holidays to exotic destinations or new cars. We build our pot and thus have more to spend, so more money to earn. We could look at year 2 total being a profit of almost £105,000. So if that's of interest to anyone, please get in touch with me. My details will be at the end of this program, and I can show you exactly what I can do, various different bespoke programs that I have for each and every individual stage where you're at to help you move on with a project like this. Don't worry if you haven't got £100,000. I know it's a big call. You can look at other ways to do it. You can look at raising money through bridging, through development finance, peer-to-peer lending, crowdfunding, and also private investors. What a lot of people don't realize, and I can help you unlock this, is that most of the people around you have money, have savings, and they are not happy with the return they're currently getting because of the state of the Bank of England base rate. Hence, all the savings accounts reflect that, and it's a really poor return. If you're getting 1% on your savings versus what the inflation rate is, your money's going backwards every single year. So providing you can approach these people in the right way, and I have a great system to actually do it, you know, a non-intrusive, real gentle script. Speak to these people and they will be the best allies to have. Your joint venture partners who have got money, maybe they're time poor and cash rich, you're time rich, cash poor. Get together, form a joint venture partnership and make that money work so you can both profit from it. That brings us to the end of the session. But as a very big thank you for everyone listening in, I'm going to offer you the opportunity to all have half an hour with me. Okay. Now, if you're local, we can meet up. You can come to my office, or we can meet in a cafe, a coffee shop. Or if you're not, we can have a Skype, a Zoom, or a traditional old-fashioned telephone call. My details are on the screen right now. So please, if you've got any questions, put them into the chat box now, or feel free to email or call me tomorrow. Now, all you've got to do is mention to me when you call, Ben, I saw you on your webinar, whether it's live today or whether it's the rerun of the actual webinar. Mention that you spoke to me, and I will then in turn give you a 30-minute consultation call. And you can then decide whether you want to continue down that route with me, or whether you'd rather go alone or with an alternative provider. Now, that's entirely up to you. There's no obligation, there's no commitment needed. I just want to show you and share with you my business, that when I started a couple of years ago on this particular journey, the property development journey, I was 6 days a week running around like a headless chicken. I've now systemized the business to make sure that we now only work 2 to 3 days a week on it. And it's given me this extra time to put a bit back in to help people of a similar like-mindedness to come into this industry and to not make some of the bad mistakes that I made. So if you are interested, please take my details from the screen now, Facebook message me, email or call me, and we can arrange to have a half-hour, 30-minute conference call where we can discuss strategies. I can tell you exactly what I can do for you based upon what you want to do, what your goals are over the next 6 to 12 to 2 years, and what your anticipations are. So please, any questions, I'm always here. I love talking. I'm sad, bored and lonely. No, I'm not. But yes, please do feel free to drop me a line. If you've got any questions now, pop them in the chat box. I'm going to have a quick look and see whether we have got anything in here so far. Nope, looks empty at the moment. Everyone's been listening intently and nobody said anything. So like I say, if you do have any questions whatsoever, please email, Facebook message or call me tomorrow. I look forward to speaking to you all soon. I sincerely thank you for joining us today and thank you for taking the big step into property development. It's given me a very comfortable, flexible and enjoyable lifestyle that a few years ago, when I was working as an estate agent, I thought I would never, ever be able to achieve. So congratulations, everyone. Thank you very much indeed. Look forward to speaking to you soon.